I am TJ Sidhu and welcome to a very special episode of 9 Months. Today we'll be discussing and understanding children with special needs. Now, these children may have been born with a syndrome, profound cognitive impairment, or serious psychiatric problems. Some may have special needs that involve struggling with learning disabilities, developmental delays, and surprisingly, arthritis. I know this might seem like a lot to handle, but you do know what works best for your child, so just trust your way. However, if you are one of those parents who feels unsure about how to handle children with special needs, then we've got just the show for you. We have with us Dr. Sameer Dalwai, developmental pediatrician, founder of New Horizon Child Development Center, Dr. Raju Kubchandani, renowned pediatrician with special interest in pediatric rheumatology, who pioneered the specialty in India, and my very dear friends Ravi and Chitra Iyer, who are wonderful parents to a young adult with autism. So Ravi, was all this information available to you 20 years ago? What we know about autism today must be very different from...
So 20 years back, we became a part of an autism support group, and we were part of not the first generation of parents there, but we were the second or third generation of parents who joined in. In fact, initially when we joined the support group, we weren't even aware that Shravan was autistic. And we just went there with the intention of helping people and
understanding. You know, we just attended, I attended one of the very first conferences in Bombay on autism. And because I knew, like Sameer pointed out, that there were delays happening, and I could see that in our child, and I just went to understand. The diagnosis actually came after that.
Did you immediately suspect it might be autism when you saw the
Not
delays?
really.
So we were not sure.
Not sure.
Because of his multiple complications. There was also cerebral palsy by the side. There was developmental delay, epilepsy, everything was adding on. And we were going continuously to the developmental pediatrician who was helping us through in understanding what should we be doing. Like Sameer said, we started therapy at age 3 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Early intervention started then.
Right.
That was first gross motor, because we had to just work at how to get him to sit, to crawl, and you know, and then to stand. Shravan stood at the age of 6 and 7, started walking at 8. So we were focusing more on the motor delays that were happening.
There was a very large lag in the milestones.
And to answer your question about what was it 20 years ago, it was very sparse in terms of therapy that was available. But we were lucky that we got to meet some fantastic therapists here in Bombay. It was super that, you know, we really blessed that today Shravan is not in a wheelchair. And, you know, he's very fine in gross motor. Of course, his left side is affected because of his epilepsy, but there's absolutely no speech. So, but he communicates with us.
Is there any help for that, doctor, for speech?
It's about communication.
Communication.
As long as there's communication and he understands, if he is here in this room and he's able to figure, okay, what's happening, he doesn't need to talk. Right?
There is
but
that
he knows exactly, okay, I'm here, they're doing something, I'm supposed to do something else.
Yeah,
you know?
I understand.
So we're trying to see that in autism, okay, so it's like 80% of the children would be non-verbal, 20% are verbal, and we've repeatedly, as we've met so many parents over the years, being part of the Forum for Autism, all we've been going back to them and telling them is how you work on what Sameer so beautifully explained in terms of just
basic
interaction and getting them out of their shell and just being participative in whatever is happening in the environment.
I'd like to take a leaf from what she said, and she said that we were very fortunate that we met a very spectacular team of people who helped us to cope and to manage Shravan. But you know, I read a very interesting line somewhere, and it said that patients with special needs or with rare diseases are born with a postcode lottery, which basically means that if you are born perhaps in urban Bombay, you are much better off than if you were born in a rural village in India somewhere.
Absolutely true.
And the author called this the postcode lottery.
Sir, that said, doctor, we have so many parents who have absolutely no facilities even today. As a support group, we've been striving, I mean, over the last 10 years, Sameer is also aware that we've been working first at what can be available for toddlers Early intervention, what is necessary? We're talking about 1 in 65 children today who are diagnosed with autism daily, across the globe.
Number.
And we are very, very far in terms of services that are available for them here today. We're still aping the West. And, today we're talking, our children have aged. Today Shravan is 20. We are talking about what services are available for the adults. There are so many adults who are already at 45 and 60, and their parents are wondering what after us. So it's the entire spectrum that, is really, it's going to hit us really bad. Of course, again, everyone dealing with the challenges of, do I put my child into a normal school or not? Do I get him into a special school or not? The whole system is about how do I accept first that there is a problem, and then how do I go ahead with it? Right. So if there is a beautiful team on our side, the pediatrician, the developmental pediatrician, the speech therapist, the occupational therapist, the behavior therapist, most
also
important,
part of the team.
obviously, outside of all of the medical fraternity, it's family. I mean, if we weren't in this together, and he being so positive, you know him, he's been really like, it's about,
involved, hands-on father.
It's happened, now we need to do what needs to be done. How do we look at it? We went through our own challenges of going through, oh my God, this has happened to us, now what do we do next?
Right. I must add one disclaimer. Autism does not mean mental subnormality. And that you can have people with high IQ and some of the world's greatest scientists have known to have autism. This is a subset of people who are called as having Asperger's syndrome.
Oh, okay.
So these are, I'm sure the people who work in the area of mental health will testify that these patients are called high-functioning autistic patients.
So I just want to ask you, Ravi, how do, as parents of a special needs child, how do you deal with a judgmental world?
Firstly, we set aside all kind of judgmental people out of our lives. So thankfully, we were the sort who could afford to do that. I was working in a radio station where we would contact, we were in touch with a lot of people who were a little different. I come from a family where my sisters were very supportive. They are much older than me. Her parents were very supportive. So we got a lot of support from within the family, firstly.
But then what happened with your friend circle?
So the friend circle changed. Anybody who didn't fit in was out of our friend circle. And that, I think, happens to a lot of people, even with their regular kids.
Most people first went on a silent mode because they didn't know whether they were trying to be rude and getting into our space. But those who were very close were there, and
they would
perhaps
say,
even we accepted, and we were more open and vocal about it. We were able to share about all the problems that we were going through. The parent support group came in a big way, and our family, an immediate circle of friends who wanted to help, wanted to know what's happening. And therefore, we could actually interact and, share everything that's happening about us with them. We even, a classic thing was whenever we would get an invite to a party, should we take him or not? We couldn't leave him home.
Right.
We weren't comfortable with that.
I'm sure.
So we had our friends saying, okay, this invite is for Shravan and you come with him. That clearly,
most times,
it differentiates everybody, right?
It's a given now, even when we travel abroad. In fact, people have been very forthcoming. And like he said, we are now virtually like gifted parents. Because of him, we get special invites everywhere. And you go abroad, there are people
invited and you too.
He's invited and we tag along.
It's completely, we get priority everywhere. And we get friends who, we are blessed, I guess. And we encourage all our other families whom we know that, just talk to people.
Right.
We've had all our instances of people being really rude to us also. And I went through a bad phase like 2 years back when in the lift, kids would get scared of him. And I could see it in their face.
They just don't know.
And it's like Shravan is like a big grid in, and he can't do anything. He'll just stand in a corner. But then they would stare at him, and I would step in and say, he's just saying hi. If he were like Shravan has a natural instinct of doing that.
Reaching out
Shaking
to
hands.
you.
And
yeah.
these guys are, oh God, why such a big guy? No, he's taller than me in between both of us. And today we are dealing with that, and there people are like, so then what do you expect as a society? So
But
then people step in and say, listen, he's just saying hi. So it's instantaneously they connect with people who know
Yeah.
and can put things at ease and
Of course.
educate their child.
But it's not a right way or a wrong way. And what you guys have done, you've gathered your information, you have your close people with you. Your way is the best way. You know what's best for your child.
Yes, every parent always knows it instinctively.
Of course they
So
do.
I just like to add here, the point to make is that when it comes to being judgmental, we as a human race individually are always judgmental.
We always are.
We see something and we try to fit it
Yeah.
with the package or the baggage that we carry in our mind.
Very true.
Everybody, if I meet you after 10 years, I'll also compare you with the image that I have of you 10 years back. That's natural.
Quite
Yes.
So it's natural to be prejudiced. I understand that.
Right.
What we need to do with autism is I completely dislike the term autism spectrum disorder. The spectrum is not of autism. The spectrum is of humanity. It's human spectrum disorder, if you have to
Yes,
call it.
yes, it is.
Because all of us are on different parts of
Very
the
true,
spectrum.
very true.
So it is HSD, human spectrum disorder. So if I understand that Dr. Kupchandani is a little bit taller than me, so what?
Yeah.
It's not a disorder as such,
Absolutely.
there's a
No.
spectrum.
Very well
So if
said.
somebody speaks a little less than me or has certain behaviors which are a little different from me, that's all right.
Yeah.
So we need to take away this stigma as if I touch somebody, I have autism, he'll get autism. It's nothing like that.
No.
It's just a spectrum of humanity of different social development. Now everybody can't speak like a great orator. So what? Does it make him less important or less socially effective? That's the message we need to take across.
That's a great message, Doctor. Thank you so much for putting that across. Doctor, now you specialize in children with joint diseases and arthritis. I didn't even know there was such a thing. Do children get arthritis?
Yes, so this is a common myth that arthritis is a disease of the geriatric or the old age group.
Associated with older people.
Children also get arthritis and arthritis disorders, and I'm going to tell you a very peculiar statistic that if, as we are seeing now, that polio is almost getting extinct from our country, or perhaps is already extinct from our country, then after polio, perhaps arthritis in children and road traffic accidents would be the commonest reasons for physical disability.
Wow.
So it is indeed very, very common, and more and more cases are being diagnosed now. However, there are several problems that these children encounter along the way before they reach a diagnosis.
Like what sort of problems?
So the first, I think, biggest error is the lack of awareness of the arthritis disorders in various branches of medicine or the various practitioners, general practitioners, etc. And even for the parental perception is, if they have a joint pain, they must see an orthopedic surgeon. Not true at all.
No.
With a joint pain, you need to see a rheumatologist. And that is the specialty which deals with joint diseases, not the orthopedic surgeon.
Yeah. Doctor, how can you tell that a child has arthritis? What are the things we need to look out for?
So the issue here is pain. And like we talk about milestones, like we did speak earlier, pain is a milestone that the child learns to express only after about 4 years of age.
So that means it can go undetected for 4 years?
So before 4 years, there are subtle clues. For example, the child not walking, or the child who used to walk and has stopped walking now. The child who gets up in the morning and takes quite a lot of time to get the spring in his step, so to say. Because then that's what we call morning stiffness or gelling. Okay, but you go even younger and the mother tells you, जब हम बच्चे को बनियान या टी शर्ट डालते हैं तो वो एक हाथ ऊपर करता है but he doesn't lift the other one, and then you know that there is something painful that's wrong with that particular limb.
So they can't lift both arms together.
So he can't lift both arms together, or she's trying to wear the trouser and he can't lift both his legs alternately to put them in. So these may be subtle features, you know. And in the very newborn stage, and mind you, I've seen a bunch of kids who are newborns with arthritis. And these newborns with arthritis may have something that they call pseudo paralysis, meaning they're not moving their limbs, which you think is paralysis because of a neurological or a brain disease, but actually they are not moving their limbs because it's painful for them to move their limbs. And that's because of inflamed joints. So it's a vast spectrum of presentations across various ages.
And thank you guys also. Now, all children need love and understanding and acceptance. As parents, this is what we can do, not only with your own kids, but also with kids in general. Accept them as they are. Don't be judgmental. Do not be critical. Just let every child grow their own way. Your way is the best way, so trust your instincts.